you can see what this video is titled. I have 3 videos that are trying to come out right now that are being edited or just that I have not filmed yet. And this is definitely one of them that I've been putting off for a while because I haven't had the motivation, or I don't know how to organize it, or I don't have all my thoughts gathered. If you see me holding these sheets of paper, it's my notes. I don't have a camera that I film with, so this is on my phone, so I can't obviously look at the notes that I've written on my phone, so I just printed them out. And it's like 4 pages, so if that gives you an idea of what I'm trying to wrap up in this video and not make it 2 hours long. I'm just gonna start this off by saying I don't want any hate to come from this. I'm not gonna say this person's name so that if you don't know who I'm talking about, it stays that way. I'm just doing this for me because I'm so tired of just feeling like I have to prove myself and feeling like I'm not getting through to anybody, that nobody really understands what happened, because nobody does. I'm just here to clear things up and just stop all the rumors, stop all the lies, stop all the assumptions, just everything. This is also gonna be for people to know what a toxic relationship looks like, because any of these instances that I'm explaining are very toxic and very rude, very manipulative, and I hope that none of you have to go through a relationship like this. So the story that most of you know, this past December, he had broken up with me after a lot of fighting and just BS that he had caused and a lot of problems that he had caused. And I caught feelings for another boy, and I knew that he could treat me so much better and that he would be so much better for me, but he promised me that he could change. And he was like, I promise you're not gonna regret this. Like, just please choose me. I'm gonna, do a full 180. This is gonna be so different. I promise that we're not gonna have any of the same problems. I'm so sorry. And he started showing signs of changing, so I chose. Soon found out not a lot had changed at all, and we were still there with the same underlying problems as before, and new ones rising again. In March, on spring break, I left for Orlando, Florida on a trip with my guy best friend and my girl best friend. Me and my guy best friend have been best friends for 5 years, and we were always super close, and I did not like him at all, just from the get-go. And I had never had a crush on him. I had never liked him previously. We had never dated. It was never feelings involved for me at all. And I did not believe that, and he just couldn't stand it either way. We're just gonna call my ex Jerry, and we're gonna call my boy best friend Kiefer. Obviously, all of you know him now. So Jerry, before I had left for Orlando, me and Jerry had been fighting for a long time, and it was pretty bad. It was all from problems that he had caused. I wasn't doing anything wrong, basically. I told him, shut up about everything. I'll deal with it when I get back. I don't want to deal with this right now. So I left for Orlando, and me and Kiefer just got way too close. We were way too affectionate. He had a girlfriend. I was with Jerry, and it was a bad situation. It reminded me how good he could treat me from December. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt like I could finally breathe and be happy and calm for the first time in a long, long time. And I just missed that feeling, and it was mind-blowing how bad things had gotten with me and Jerry, and how good things were on the other side with Kiefer. And it was just like, why have I been letting this happen? Like, it was just kind of an awakening, just kind of a way to see through all the blindness and bullshit and emotion. Why am I letting myself get treated like this? Like, there's no reason for that. Me and Kiefer obviously were just too affectionate, and we never kissed, we never did anything, but we were just affectionate. And while it was basically cheating, because there were feelings behind it, it was the happiest 5 days of my life, and the happiest I had been in a long, long time. I got home, found out, and of course he was heartbroken, and I felt so much guilt for weeks, and I would just cry. I would cry myself to sleep. I was a wreck. As the days went on, I just kept realizing and looking back, and I was just getting my eyes open to everything that had happened, and I was like, why did I not get out of there sooner? The fact that it was ever a hard choice in my mind to choose between Kiefer or Jerry is just mind-blowing to me, that I could have been so blind and manipulated to just think that that was even a choice. It's just so crazy to me to this day that I didn't see the impact and how terrible things were while I was experiencing it. You all know the story now. Me and Kiefer are together. It took a lot. It took a lot for me to get out of there, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. That's what that board says. I believe that everything happens for a reason, and I believe that that was my chance to get out of there. Because if it was not for quarantine, where I did not have to see Jerry in person, if it was not for Kiefer, where I got to see basically what it was like to be in a relationship with him, if it was not for that trip, if it was not for anything that had occurred in the way that it did, if anything happened any differently, I would probably still be in that relationship, because I was so manipulated and just brainwashed. That thought scares me more than anything, because I don't know where I would be. Even though it broke Isaac, it really did, and I still feel guilt for that. I know that I wasn't the bad person in the relationship, and that my huge mistake and my huge fuck up towards him got me out of there. And that's what I'm grateful for, and I'm grateful that everything happened in the way that it did. Everything from our relationship looked so picture perfect from the outside. There were so many people that were like, I want to have what you guys have. I love you guys so much. Like, I aspire to be like this. It just wasn't a pretty picture on the inside. It really wasn't. And I don't think it much of ever was. I think there were good moments. I'm tired of people not knowing what really happened. I'm tired of being seen as the bad person. And yeah, I was a bad person in some senses, of course. I wasn't perfect by any means, and I'm not here to say that I was. I'm not here to say that I never hurt him. I'm not here to say that I was never wrong. I'm not here to say that there were never problems that came from me. So I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say anybody's name from any of these instances that I talk about. If you know who I'm talking about, then you know who I'm talking about, and if you don't, then you don't. And that's fine. So this relationship started off as a friendship. Okay, we were friends for a year before we got together, and he was chasing me that entire time. I never thought of him romantically until obviously I did fall for him. In the beginning, things started off pretty good. They were pretty much picture perfect, and I had just gotten out of a very, very manipulative relationship that was just idiotic, to say the least. So anything above that was like a fairy tale to me. I think that's another reason and a big part of why I thought things were just fine and that I didn't really pay attention and that I was so blind to things, because I was like, oh, it's so much better than what I had before, like what's the problem? But yeah, it was definitely bad. But it started off well. In the beginning, I had issues that had come from that previous relationship. It was basically just me being a bit toxic to him because of habits that I had formed from the past relationships and fears that I had had. Things like, I told him I was uncomfortable with him having female friends. I tried to be like, don't hang out with them. I was never like, I hate them, you can't hang out with them, you're not allowed to do that. But it was like, I was controlling in a way. I was a hypocrite as well because I got too close to some of my male friends. I had a foggy head and I didn't know, I wasn't thinking clearly, I didn't know what was going on. I had habits that I didn't even know were there, but I fixed it quick enough and they were there for a few months and then it faded. However, on his end, things only got worse from day one. While we had we had a bumpy road pretty much our entire relationship from the start. There were a lot of arguments, there were a lot of mixed opinions, different opinions. Pretty much just everything was opposing each other from start to end. There were things that he fixed, I'll give him that. There were a lot of things that it was a huge problem and he completely fixed it. But things just kept getting worse, there kept getting more problems, they kept getting the same problems, kept getting not fixed, so it just made it worse. I remember one of the first things that I remember of him just being toxic and kind of just passive aggressive. He would get really uncomfortable when I would ask to hang out with male friends, because I've always had a lot of male friends. I don't get along with a lot of females. He would get pretty uncomfortable if I would ask to go to the mall with them, if I would ask to go to their birthday parties, things like that. He would say things like, I don't want you there late. Can you try to be home by this time? Could you leave early? Our girls do that. That was a big thing. He would always ask if females were there as well, because I guess that if females were there and it wasn't just males, that made it okay. Like, I think you should be going home by now. I think you should ask your mom to come pick you up. Just kind of little passive-aggressive comments and manipulative ways of saying, I don't want you to be somewhere without me or where I can't see what you're doing for too long. Another thing that I first noticed is he did not like me being seen. He did not like to show me off. He did not like me. He didn't like anybody else besides him seeing me in just pretty much any way. He would try to tell me what I could and couldn't wear, trying to tell me what I could and couldn't post on social media, trying to control how others saw me, and not in the way of telling others, but he showed it in ways of controlling what I did. The most prominent memory I have of this is I had gone to Florida on vacation and I had taken pictures on the beach. He had told me that he didn't like me posting those pictures on the beach. Of course, I asked him why, and he was just like, I just don't like them. And of course, you know, me being me, I was like, that's stupid. That's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If you can't give me a reason, like a decent reason. You know, it's pictures that my mom was fine with. He sent me a picture, a snap, and he had the pictures of me on the beach in the snap, and it specifically said, these are the ones that I don't like. And if I can find that screenshot, I will put it in here, but I have the screenshot. He just convinced me to not use those anywhere, and while I still did because I knew that it was stupid, his reasoning was basically, I let you post anything that you want, just please not those pictures, I don't like them, like, that's all I'm asking, kind of thing. And I was kind of just like, as you should, like, you should let me post anything that I want anywhere. It doesn't matter, that's not your place, that's not your choice. Another thing that I could not stand, and I don't know why I did not just leave him right here at this instance, I will always remember this, and I remember it very vividly. And I'm not going to say this person's name that's involved, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be watching this, so if you are, I'm sorry. One of his family members had come out as transgender, and we were at lunch, and he told me about this, and he was like, so-and-so is trying to say that they're transgender. And I was like, well, are they? And he was like, that's what they're saying. And I said, okay, what do they want to go by? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, what are their pronouns? What do they want to be called by? And he was like, are you serious? And I was like, yes, I am serious. Are you serious? He started going off about saying that he had known this family member for a long time and that he knew that they were not trans. I immediately went off, of course. I said, that is not your place. You don't know that. You are not them. That's not your choice. You don't know. You are not in their head. We were around a group of people that of course backed me up, and they got onto him and were basically just like, that's fucked up. He didn't back off about it. He backed off about it and he stopped talking about it, but he never agreed with any of us, even though it seemed to be, you could tell. I will never understand why I didn't just leave him right there and then. That is one of the things that it pissed me off the most to this day, and I will always remember that. And if you're watching this person that I'm talking about, I'm so sorry. He did not respect my parents at all, or pretty much any adults that tried to tell him what to do or ask anything of him. But his disrespect for my parents was very, very prominent in multiple ways. He didn't listen to anything that they asked of him. He just disrespected them pretty much in every way possible. And they were never rude to him. They never disrespected him. They were always super nice to him and super kind to him, even though he really did not deserve it. Talks shit and lets his friends talk shit on things I support or preach or believe in. He was one of those dudes that I would be talking to him about something and he would be like, oh my gosh, I love that, that's so cool. And then next day he's with his friends and his friends are like, what is your girl doing? That's so weird. And he's like, oh my gosh, I know, that's so weird. Like, ugh, I hate that so much. I hate it when she does that. That was him. Speaking of which, he didn't like it a lot when I talked about things I liked or am interested in, if he wasn't interested in them too. Because I talk a lot. I do talk a lot about nonsense. But it was to the point where it was just rude. And he wouldn't let me speak. Things like I would get out of Latin class and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I learned this, or we were talking about this and I found it super interesting, and he'd be like, I don't care, like I really don't care, can you please just shut up about Latin? Things like cruises and vacations, which is a big part of my life. I absolutely love traveling, and I would talk about it and he'd be like, I don't want to hear about it. That's all you ever talk about, and I don't want to hear about it. It's not exciting to me. I don't want to ever do that. So just stop talking about it. But I would listen to him go on and on and on about football, cars, everything that he was obsessed with. And I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. I'm here to listen. I'll listen to whatever the hell you want to talk about. Go on. Just the whole idea of he had zero trust for the entire relationship, even though I had never broken his trust. I had broken his trust once, and I got too close to one of my male friends, but we never kissed, we never did any of that. We were just too close. He threw a fit, understandably. It was about 11 months before we broke up, and that's all he could ever bring up. Every single argument that we had, all the trouble he had gotten in, every problem that he had caused, all he could bring up was being like, but you did this, and it'd be the same thing that he brought up every time from so long ago. Even though I never brought up any of his mistakes more than once. Even though I probably should have. If he made a mistake, it was a problem for probably 2 weeks most, and it was never talked about again unless it happened again. Like I said earlier, he did not like me being seen. He did not like me being shown off. Specifically, he doesn't like it when I show my body or wear revealing clothing. He doesn't like it when I look really nice and others compliment me. Cannot stand that. Just everything of having me on a very short leash and just trying to control me. He doesn't like it when I go on vacation. He's always very suspicious and accusing. He doesn't like it that I have a big following on social media. That was one of the things that he did not like the most. I have a decent following on social media. It's not huge. I have a decent following, and he did not like that. Any time that I would post something in a bikini and a dress, when I'm dressed up, he would say that I was asking for attention. And he would say that I had a huge ego and that I was just doing it all for attention, and I wanted all the attention from other males, even though I hate compliments and attention from males. And if you know me, you know that for a fact. This was a response, and I have the screenshot. This was a response to when I asked him, why doesn't he compliment me? Why doesn't he show me off? Why doesn't he hype me up? Because I would do, obviously, those of you that know me, I do makeup looks a lot. I would do makeup looks, I would get dressed up, I would do a photo shoot, I would send him the pictures, I would show him the look, I would, show up for dances and stuff, and I'd get a cool, or nice, or you look cute, and that's it. And that's the most that I would ever get out of him. A big one that pissed me off very much, when he was in a whole just load of BS that he had caused and just a bunch of problems, he knew he was in the wrong, and he went to my mom and he made up a string of lies and exaggerations to make him not look so bad. And I can't really specify those without saying people's names or giving out certain instances, so we're not gonna go into that. Same idea. Whenever he is in the wrong about something or he has caused problems, he only tells people his side of the story. Probably like right now, like many of you have heard only his side of the story and probably have no goddamn clue what I'm talking about and knew none of this. And if he does tell my side of the story, he exaggerates and does everything he can to make him not look so bad and me look even worse. Big problem that I still am so mad about, that I still am so pissed off at myself about, is that a good 50% of our time was spent by him begging to do sexual things, especially when we were fighting or in a rough patch. It was a good 80%. Even though I expressed to him that I don't want to, I'm not in the mood, he thinks that means try to convince me, and he cannot take no for an answer. And that pretty much goes for everything. He was not good at receiving no. He would beg and beg and beg and be like, please, but you told me this, or you said this earlier. And I'd be like, well, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to. It's not that big of a deal. And if I finally gave in after him begging, and then I was like, you know what, never mind, he would say that I led him on, and that it was not fair, and that if I say yes, then I have to keep going. If he did finally accept a no and gave up, he would become very just hostile and cranky and not want to do anything, not want to talk to me, not want to interact with anybody. A big thing of his was cars. He loved cars, he loved racing. His favorite movies were Fast and Furious. It was always in his family, it was something that he loved very much, but he was a very, very dangerous driver in multiple ways. And he has a little foreign sports car, I'm not going to specify it. He has a foreign sports car, it's a little thing, it's pretty loud, but it can be quiet if you want it to, if you go slow enough. And every time that he would come over and then leave, he would pull out of my driveway and pull out as fast as he could and then just bolt down the road, and it was very loud. And my neighbors on both sides, this neighbor is elderly, we've known her forever, she's getting very old. This neighbor works night shifts, and so do a lot of the neighbors around us. They're either very elderly or they work night shifts or go to sleep early, just in general. My parents would ask him, like, can you please stop doing that? All of our neighbors are asleep or, you know, are gonna get very annoyed by that, because my neighbor across the street has lived here since my dad was little. And he's seen kids get killed on this road because of dangerous drivers. So we would ask him, you know, that's not cool, you can't be doing that in this neighborhood, there's no reason to do that. He never let up. He would never listen to them, he would never obey them, he would just constantly keep driving ridiculously, leaving our house, coming by our house, driving down our road. He would just fly down our road for absolutely no reason, because his car could be quiet. He just chose to make it very loud and go very fast. I remember at one point they told him, you need to stop doing that or you're not allowed over here anymore. And so he just said, I'm not coming over anymore. And I said, that's ridiculous. I'm not hanging out with you and I'm not seeing you until you can stop your bullshit. And he said, okay. He genuinely would rather not see me and not hang out with me than stop ridiculously driving by our house. This was a pretty recent event. This was in quarantine, but it was towards the beginning of quarantine. It was about right before we broke up. I went driving for one of my first times. I just turned 16. I don't have a car that I can drive. I went driving for one of my first times in a parking lot by our house. And I didn't tell him where I was going, but he saw me in the parking lot, and so he pulled in to say hi. When he was leaving, my mom was like, are you gonna keep driving? And I was like, no, I'm gonna wait for him to get out of the parking lot. He was opposite us. So he went to the back of the parking lot to turn around and then come by us to come out. So he went to the back of the parking lot and then gassed it, probably going 60 miles an hour, if not more than that, straight past us in this parking lot, which I remind you is not big. It has light poles, it has grass patches, there's not a whole lot of open space. Very fast towards these children on bikes. They weren't children, they were teens, but it was a family on bikes, and he headed straight towards them and then last minute whipped it around and basically drifted around them to get out of the parking lot for absolutely no reason in front of me and my mom. Also a recent event, I have extreme anxiety and dissociative episodes when I watch movies and TV and just pretty much anything that is not in the present, like YouTube or social media, and it makes me dissociate and I can go into an attack. Yes, I've been diagnosed with these things. Yes, I go to therapy. It's a genuine thing. He knows this. He's always been good with coping and helping me with my attacks and anxiety and everything else. But anytime that we were in like a fight or an argument, or I had done something that he didn't like, he would blame me for it and act like I was being a problem to him. For example, an instance, we were watching a Disney movie. He wanted to do sexual things, and I told him no over and over until he shut up. He was very cranky after that, and I asked him to turn off the movie when I started realizing that I was dissociating. And he told me that I was being dramatic and that I shouldn't be getting anxiety over a Disney movie. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know why I'm getting it right now, but can you please turn it off? And he was like, no, just go to sleep. I was like, I don't want to go to sleep. Can we just do something else? I was the one that wanted to watch this movie in the first place, so I know that you don't want to just sit here and watch it. And he just told me that I was ruining the movie and that I was being annoying and I was the problem. So these notes is pretty much all that I have for right now. I've spent a couple weeks thinking about it and typing it out. I probably have a lot more that I'm just not thinking about right now or that I don't remember. This video is already very, very long, and I'm just trying to get my word out there. I'm trying to get my truth out there. I'm trying to get people to stop believing his lies and just his nonsense. That's just it. That's pretty much all I have to say. This video is very long, and if you're seeing these red flags in your relationship right now, please leave. It's not worth it, and it never will be. They're not going to change. You're not going to be able to change them, change their minds, change how they act. You won't, and I can promise you that. If you leave right now, you're going to thank yourself in the future, and you're going to save yourself a lot of pain and heartbreak. I know that I'm going to get retaliation from this, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of good comments. I know that I'm going to get a lot of bad comments. I wouldn't wish this on anybody because I have traumas from this, and I have memories and just stuff that I think about that just makes me so unbelievably angry, gives me so much anxiety. I have triggers that are specifically from this relationship that just instantly trigger my anxiety and just worry and panic. As much as I hate it, I'm working on it, and it's something that I'm getting through one step at a time. And this is my truth, and this is all my accounts of the toxicity in my past relationship. If you watch this all the way through, thank you. I know that it's a lot, and I know that you might be really confused, but please don't hesitate to ask me any questions. Don't hesitate to just contact me. If you want to contact me and say, oh my gosh, I experienced this too, or if you want to contact me and say this is happening in my relationship, if you want to just talk to me about any of this, any advice that you may need, please don't hesitate to do so. Do whatever you feel with this information. This is the truth, and this is what happened.